Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on tonight's show, we are going into full preview mode for the 2025 MLB Draft, which is now less than 2 weeks away. We're going to run a mock draft simulator on the show tonight. If you're watching along on YouTube, we will have the simulator up on the screen. But for those listening to this show, we'll, of course, describe what is going on in the simulator, relay the news to you. And before we do the mock draft, we're going to talk a little bit about the Orioles draft philosophy and review what we think works and what doesn't work, and where there could perhaps be some room for a change or improvement in 2025. And we'll get to all of that on tonight's show. But first, as we like to do at the top of every episode, we want to welcome a new member to our Patreon community. And for that, I will turn it over to Bob.
Yes, we do have a new free trial member who signed up, a week free trial, and then you get to check it out and then go from there where you pay monthly. So thank you, NTS, for signing up at the AA level. That's the only information we have as far as name goes. So NTS, you know who you are.
We appreciate the support. And as a reminder, you can join our Patreon community to $3, $5, or $10 levels and have access to bonus weekly shows from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 prospects list. And our July update is going to drop this week. So if you're not a patron yet, sign up today and you'll have access to that episode and a lot more. Now, we'll get into our draft coverage. We're going to start, before we get into our mock draft, however, with a discussion about the Orioles draft philosophy. Since 2019, Mike Elias has been at the helm of the Orioles drafts in his role as general manager, though there has been some change recently with Brad Selleck departing for the Washington Nationals a couple of years ago, and Matt Blood taking on a larger role with the draft. Now, with that said, the draft philosophy has stayed pretty consistent throughout the years. The Orioles like to target hitters, especially college hitters, early in the draft, and are willing to work with players who, for better or worse, have swing and miss tendencies, because there's something else in their game that they like. It could be good exit velocities, it could be good walk rates and low chase rates, but whatever it is, the Orioles have a set of skills that they look for, and they don't worry so much if the swing and miss skills are in play there, because they like what these hitters have to offer otherwise. And that has yielded some mixed results. Gunnar Henderson was not a slam dunk by any means when the Orioles drafted him. Yet you look at the career he's having, and he's turned out to be a great player. Van Tunneycutt, on the other hand, was taken in the first round of last year, and he is really struggling in his first full year of pro ball. So you can pick apart the hitters all you want, and then perhaps the most common comment/complaint about the Orioles draft philosophy under Mike Elias is that they tend to wait a while on pitchers. Now, in the last few years, they have started to take pitchers a little bit earlier within the first 10 rounds of the draft, but yet a pitcher has never been their top pick under Mike Elias. And it doesn't seem like that's going to change anytime soon, though we'll see in our mock draft tonight what those results yield. Nick, I'll start with you here. In the years that we've been doing this show, I think we've seen the Orioles stick to a consistent formula. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you feel it's working at this point when you look at the whole organization, not just what's going on with players at the major league level, but down in the minors?
I think it's important to look at the major league roster right now and see how many of these guys were homegrown prospects. And I know, like, a lot of this conversation can probably open up entire cans of worms, in other conversations. But these drafts have produced a lot of major leaguers. They've produced, look at other rosters: Joey Ortiz, Connor Norby, Kyle Stowers. There are other guys in other organizations that are in the big leagues now. These are guys who were drafted and largely developed by the Orioles, who are now contributing elsewhere. I think they've done a really fantastic job. I think very few people will, despite no matter their belief when it comes to Mike Elias, will say that the drafting, the scouting has been bad in this organization, right? I just feel like with the draft stuff, like when it comes to the pitching, I think when you look at a lot of the top prospects now in the system, Braxton Bragg, Trey Gibson, Michael Ferret, Nestor Ramon, you see that they're able to get these guys in much later rounds from smaller schools because the scouting is phenomenal and the pitching development doesn't get enough credit in this organization still. And they're producing like some some big time prospects right now. Have we seen them transition to the big leagues yet? No, but they've done a fantastic job of drafting and developing pitchers, getting them to like the precipice of the major leagues. And now it would be nice to see more of these guys start to crack major league rosters. But I think over the next year or two, we're going to see a lot more of these guys take that leap. And it's just easier. I feel like none of it's easy, but I feel like it's a lot easier to find the high upside arms in later rounds compared to like the bats. You're not going to find, it's very rare that you're going to find the high upside bats that you will early on in the draft. So I have no issue with, drafting the college bats or just drafting bats in general early, waiting a little bit on pitching. It has worked so far. And I think this year it's going to be interesting because Matt Blood is now kind of running the ship, steering the ship up top with this now. So we'll see, like, what changes is he going to implement this year, if any? Like, what did he learn last year that he wants to see changed? Does this year and how things are going at the major league level, how does that impact the draft? Do they get a little bit more aggressive in certain areas? Do they make any tweaks or changes as far as like hitting or pitching development, and how is that going to impact the draft? We'll see, obviously, but I just think I like how this organization drafts. They are not afraid to throw a couple of wrenches in. See Enrique Bradfield Jr. pick. But yeah, I think the biggest discussion point would probably be the pitching. And like, I get the argument, like we're very bought into the pitching development. Don't we want to see them go after a first round arm, a high upside arm early on and see what they can do with that guy? Like, yeah, it's great that they're taking Trey Gibsons and Nestor Ramones and turning them into potential top 100 prospects. But what could they do with Kyson Witherspoon, who's already potentially a top or fringe top 100 prospect? And I get that argument, but the upside with the bats, and if you look at how this organization is set up now in the minor leagues, I think for this year specifically, I like that trend to continue of targeting these higher upside bats early on and waiting just a little bit on the pitching at least.
Honestly, it's never made more sense, I feel like, since Elias took over to focus on the bats early on right now with the way the offense is performing in Double-A and High A, which is indicative of just a lull, a little bit of a sag, which comes from having success and having to deal from that crop of minor league hitters and prospects. But I feel like the Orioles have min-maxed the draft perfectly since Elias took over. And yeah, there's just only so many hitters coming out of college and high school that are even viable, legit prospects. I feel like after the 5th round, it's really, really hard to find a major league caliber talent on the offensive side, unless it's a high schooler like Creed Willems or Nate George, who I'm sure a lot of teams just figured wasn't going to sign. I mean, he eventually did. And shout out to Matt Blood, because drafted 4 high schoolers, signed 4 outfielders. I mean, Jesus, outfielders, high schoolers. So that's kind of a magic in itself. Find guys with talent that maybe other teams don't think can sign, but something tells you that you can convince them, whether it's just, Nate George personality. If you put enough money and say, we want to get you to the majors this fast, then that's going to enable him to pull the trigger. But I think, yeah, there's plenty of arms out there, and I'm sure other teams are catching up, but I feel like at least 2022, 2023, a little bit of 2024, the Orioles did an amazing job of finding pitchers who didn't have the stats, didn't pitch at big schools, but there was something in the arsenal, something in the stuff that they were able to figure out, find them, and put them in the system and teach them a few tricks. And boom, we got, as if you're a patron and you want to subscribe to see our new top 50 update, it's pretty exciting when it comes to the arms in the system, as we've been talking about for quite a while. But yeah, I think if the pitcher is there that they think is good enough to be taken over the hitters early, they'll do it. I just think it's going to be a really rare case for that to happen. But I think it's been working out perfectly. 2025 at the major league level, be damned. I think this organization is in an incredibly healthy spot, and they just got to keep doing what they're doing with the draft, and the international prospects are coming like we've always talked about too. So let's go. I'm ready.
The story in the minor leagues this year has been the success of the pitching development program and where they've been able to hit on some players from the last two draft classes. And what's been probably stood out the most about the pitchers from the 2024 class is that a lot of that production has come from the 10th round and later. Sebastian Gongora has been one of the best arms in the minor league system this year, and that's the range that he fell into. The year before, the success with guys who were taken more towards the back part of the top 10 or beyond the third round has been really key. And I think that it's worth noting that this is a league-wide thing where your best position players are going to go towards the top of the board, and some of your pitchers might fall a little bit later in the draft. So I think that the Orioles are following something that's not the least bit unconventional. In fact, probably you look at most drafts year in and year out, that's what you're going to see is that a lot of pitchers pop up after, say, the third or fourth round, whereas a lot of the position players that go on to make an impact and have big careers tend to be taken in the first two rounds. So the Orioles are following that. And I think as we're going to get into in a few minutes here, there are some arms this year that if they fall to 19, I think the Orioles are going to take a long, hard look at. But it also does feel like this particular class is tailored more towards that strategy of go after the college bat with one or two loud tools and see if you can fix the hit tool.
Yeah, it does seem that way, doing some personal mocks. And obviously Nick has done some for us as well on the podcast side. And yeah, I just think these hitters, they kind of are who they are. There's so many metrics on the offensive side. And with pitchers, it's almost like Transformers, or I'm trying to think of the 80s brand that was like you just can take things off, put them on, Mr. Potato Head. Just they're so moldable. You can change so many things about a pitcher to increase their liability or I'm having a great day with words. Increase their capability as a prospect and as a pitcher in general. Talked about how age doesn't matter as much anymore when it comes to pitchers because of this. So it's just, yeah, you want to get those talented hitters early and then work on your Mr. Potato Heads later.
And this draft class in particular, like, if you haven't been following along like very closely and you're just kind of picking up on bits and pieces here and there, like you're probably going to hear a lot of like, well, the top of the draft class isn't as strong as in recent years. And that may be the case. Like there's no clear cut number one. I don't think anyone has any clue what the Nationals are going to do. If anyone says they do, they're lying. No one knows how the Nationals are going to start this thing off. But yeah, the top of the draft class, there may not be that slam dunk 1-1, and the upper echelon may not be as strong, but the Orioles have picks 19, 30, and 31 to start out with. They have, 5 in the first 69? They've got, 8 in the top 5 rounds? Like, there are a ton of draft picks, so they have a very high signing bonus pool, and the depth of this class is in that 15 to 30 to 45, range. Like those first 2-3 rounds, you're going to be able to get some high quality prospects here in those rounds. And so I think this is a perfect year, I think, for the Orioles to have the ammo that they do in this draft. They should be able to do some real damage. And that's why I'm so excited about this particular draft, just because the options are kind of limitless. Like we'll talk about which direction we want to go here when we start, but honestly, and that's the other thing, I honestly don't care. Like, that's not great content. That's a boring answer. But like, no matter which path you initially start going down, like you're going to have fun, I feel like, with this class. So hopefully they continue to maximize this draft in the way that they have in the past years, because this is every draft is important, but I feel like this could be a pretty this could be a year where you make a pretty loud statement as far as the draft goes.
I think I've seen about 20 different variations of mock drafts for the Orioles' first 3 picks in this upcoming draft, and outside of one name in particular at 19 that I've seen a few times, I'm like, sign me up. Everyone I've seen, I'm like, yep, that'll do. That sounds good. But we'll see how it plays out when we do our own this time.
The Orioles this year have a bonus pool of a little bit more than $16.5 million, which is good for the 5th highest bonus pool in the draft. And the way that their picks are going to shake out is they have 6 picks within the top 93 of the draft, including 3 of the first 31. And now we're going to go dive in now to the mock draft and the simulator. Nick, you've done a few bonus episodes solo doing this draft simulator, and you've used it as the basis for a few of your Substack articles. But can you give our listeners a little bit of background on it?
Yeah, so I think I've got it. Getting it to share up there on the screen. Yeah, Prospects Live. I wish they were paying us to promote this, but they're not. But yeah, fun tool. You can go up to 5 rounds here. You can choose the aggression level. We're gonna do conservative here for this one and see what happens. But yeah, normal, aggressive, the Wild West. Things get crazy, but we're gonna select the Orioles here. We're gonna go all 5 rounds and walk through these. And yeah, it's
I think you have to reselect the Orioles.
There we go. But yeah, it's fun. Like, this is the point of this. This is for fun. We can start it, and I just did one actually, and Ethan Holiday was still available. We're good. If that's the case, we're gonna restart. We're gonna make this like fun, but also try to make it as realistic as possible as we can. Like, these are Prospects Live rankings. It's a simulator tool. Like, that's all it is, right? It's good, but not perfect. And we'll see what happens, see some names, and see what we like. And I think it will lead to kind of the bigger draft discussions about where we think the Orioles should go. So let me see if I can actually. Nope, that didn't zoom in. That's fine. All right.
With that, now the Washington Nationals on the clock.
Nope, something already happened. Did I not click Orioles? Orioles 5 rounds, conservative, begin draft. All right. So this might be tough for if you're watching on the screen, but if you can see the names, we've got Jamie Arnold to the Nationals at 1, Eli Willits to the Angels at 2, Avar Kett to the Mariners at 3, Ethan Holiday to the Blue Jays at number 8, Wahiva Aloy goes to the White Sox at 10, Jason Laviolette goes to the A's at 11, so we don't have to have that conversation. Liam Doyle to the Rangers, 12. Kyson Witherspoon to the Giants at 13. Gavin Fein, Merritt Houston, Arizona outfielder Brendan Summerhill, Coastal Carolina catcher Caden Bodine, and then high schooler Daniel Pierce all go. So we're up. Can you guys see this list?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I guess where do we want to go? Cade Anderson's there at the top, and this is kind of where Cade Anderson could be the 1-1 pick, right? After his performance, Ike Irish has been getting a lot of steam as a top pick, but other than that, I think the rest of these picks here are pretty accurate as to who could be available. So if we want to go Cade Anderson or Ike Irish and have more fun, we can. But again, if you guys want to be maybe a little bit more realistic, there's Tyler Bremner, the UC Santa Barbara pitcher, Ethan Conrad from Wake Forest. Luke Stevenson's been mocked to the Orioles a little more recently, the catcher from UNC. Where do you guys feel like going here? High school, college, pitcher? What are your early pick 19 thoughts?
I just based off of these names, yeah, I feel like those top 2 are definitely not going to be there, but I kind of like Xavier Nayans, who's been mocked to the Orioles a few times. Infield outfielder. He's more of a power bat potential. Gavin Killen is an interesting one as well, up the middle. We need those infield prospects. They haven't. That's where the system is lacking a little bit in the middle of AA, high A area. Devin Taylor is just a really polished guy. Ethan Conrad, I love him a lot. I've seen him mocked to us, though, at that 30-31 range. So it'd be nice if we could wait and see if he's still there a few picks down the line.
Yeah, if I wanted to go 4 here, I would go Conrad because I'm pretty sold on him, but I agree with Bob that there is probably a chance that he's going to be available. I see another high school pick here, Josh Hammond, that kind of intrigues me, but again, I think he could be available. So really, for me, I think it's a question of how much do you like Nyan's hit tool? Because the power is for real. It seems like he could stick on the left side of the infield. And most reports do have the Orioles linked to him. But there does seem to be some of those same swing and miss concerns we talked about earlier with a much younger prospect, for better or worse, than what the Orioles would usually take here.
Yeah, I think my thoughts looking at this, everyone I really want is of course gone to make it, but that's what we're working with. I agree. I want the infielder. Like, I think we've talked about this a lot, how you don't draft for need, obviously, but this system is lacking in the infield depth in, you know, AA and AAA. I would like to get that high floor but does have real ceiling infielder, because I think Griff O'Farrell, I wrote about this in the Substack piece today when looking at MLB Pipeline's mock draft. I think Griff O'Farrell was supposed to be that gap piece where the ceiling's not there, but he can help fill in at AA, AAA, like now. But clearly he's so far halfway through his first year, he has not been that guy. So I would like a do-over there and get someone with like some real ceiling this time. But I think that's going to be available at 30, 31. I like Tyler Bremner a lot, and I think he is probably really going to be available for the Orioles at pick 19, but we'll see if he's one of those guys that, like Zach mentioned, the Orioles take a good hard look at. I think I like Xavier Nyans here as well to get that high upside infield play to start with. We're going to be able to get college outfielders later on. We're going to be able to get pitching later on, and I think at 30 or 31, we should be able to get one of those high ceiling, high floor college infielders as well if we want to. So
is that
I like it.
Nyans the pick?
Nyans, I like it a lot.
I'll I pulled up Joe Doyle's report here because he's from Washington, where he's in Joe Doyle's backyard. But he is a 6'4", 208 left-handed hitter, third baseman, 70 grade power is his carrying tool. He's committed to Oregon State. You talk about the fly ball rate, the pull side power is legitimate. Primarily third baseman, could move into the corner outfield spot, but he puts like Austin Meadows, Jake Lamb comps on him. The profile, at least. Seems like this is a power guy. He also throws 96 on the mound as a pitcher right now, but yeah, I like the high upside infielder here to start off with. So we will select Xavier Nyans out of Mount Vernon High School draft. All right, go to results. We don't have long to our next pick. So Andrew Fisher, God, that guy just turns baseballs into dust. He goes to the Brewers at 20. Devin Taylor to the Astros. Ike Irish to the Braves. Luke Stevenson to the Royals. Gavin Keelan to the Padres. Kate Anderson to the Phillies. That one happened in real life. Zach Root to the Guardians. He's going to be a Cy Young candidate. Cam Cannarella to the Royals. And then Tyler Bremner to the Diamondbacks. And here we go. Ethan Conrad is still there.
For me, this is where I got to take Conrad. I just think that the mixture of tools that he has, he's going to stick in the outfield. He looks to me like a guy that could probably fit in at any of the three spots. Solid hit tool, a little bit of power projection left there. And it feels like maybe he's not the most high ceiling college bat you could get, but he's one of the more refined hitters at this point. I wouldn't have a lot of concerns about him being a guy who stalls out in AA because he just can't hit upper levels pitching.
Yeah, I feel like this is a slam dunk. This is like if Ethan Conrad is available when the Orioles come up to pick at 30/31, he's an Oriole. I just feel like that is going to be the case. Just feels right up their wheelhouse. If he didn't get hurt, I feel like he could be in play for 19. And maybe he could still potentially be if they think he could sign under slot there for a later high school pick in the 30-31 range. But yeah, I feel like we could, obviously we'll hear what Nick has to say, but seems like you take Conrad here and then we can kind of figure out what we want to do after that.
Yeah, I like Conrad a lot just because he balled out at Marist, so a mid-major school, but then went to the Cape Cod League, proved that it wasn't just like a small school mirage. And then I think at Wake Forest, like they took Seaver King from the D2 ranks last year. He settled in, became a first-round pick of the Nationals last year. Ethan Conrad was trending that way. The power was showing up early on, even though like with Wake Forest guys, you got to be careful about the home run numbers at home because it's pretty easy to get him out of the ballpark there at Wake Forest. But the home run power was showing up. I think the EVs were increasing. There was some concern about the chase, but I think he was putting up pretty good, like walk to strikeout numbers before he got injured. He got hurt, I think, diving for a baseball in the outfield, hurt his shoulder, and never came back. So, yeah, we do get 2 back-to-back picks. Do you guys like Conrad, the 20-year-old left-handed hitter, about to turn 21, but Fangraphs gives him 50 hit, 50 power, 50 speed, 55 fielding. Yeah, he had a 14% strikeout rate to an 18% walk rate in 21 games before getting hurt. 167 WRC plus. Already had 7 home runs, so the power shining through. Do you want Conrad or do you want Mason Neville, who's getting the Colton Cowser comps from Oregon?
Yeah, I do like both of these guys, but it's almost like Dylan Beavers versus Colton Cowser light, maybe. I'm a Conrad guy personally.
Yeah, Conrad doesn't have the hit tool concerns that Mason Neville does.
I'm going with Conrad.
All right. That's why you wait. Ethan Conrad, left-handed hitter from Wake Forest. We will draft you. And look at that. We're right back up. So the list is still there. You got Gage Wood, almost Mr. Perfect Game, -1 hit batter in the College World Series. Dean Curley, if you want the infielder here, the college infielder from Tennessee. Another high school pick if you guys want high schooler. Anthony Ianson, pitcher from LSU. I like him a lot. Double tap outfielder with Mason Neville. Patrick Forbes from Louisville. I like him a lot. Alex Lodis from Florida State.
I do like Lodis and Cade Obermiller. I think I saw him flash at the bottom there. I like him as a pitcher, but I think not right here. Maybe a little bit later if he's available. My question is, how much money does Nyans cost? Can you go 2 out of 3 high school picks here early on? Do you think there's the money for that?
I think there are a number of specifically pitchers. I think there are a number of senior signed pitchers that I really, really like in this draft that you could get like 4, 5, 6 round range. That unfortunately, because of how you guys know the draft process works, they have no leverage, so you can give them pennies. I think there are enough of those guys who have legitimate MLB upside, though. And like we talked about last week, Braxton Bragg and Zach Fruit were the senior signs just a couple of years ago in these draft classes, and now they're like legitimate starting pitching prospects in this organization. So I think you can be pretty aggressive here and take another high schooler if you guys want to. But
I mentioned his name a moment ago, so I want to bring it back up here. Josh Hammond, two-way player at Wesleyan Christian High School in North Carolina, committed to Wake Forest. MLB Pipeline has him right now at 55 power. Scouting report doubts his ability to stick at shortstop at the next level, but believes he has the arm for third base. What's interesting, though, is that his stuff on the mound is very intriguing. Plus fastball and a slider to go along with a solid changeup, topping out at 96. So there's a possibility here that at least early on, maybe you look at the two-way option with Hammond, or maybe you go hitter first and see how that plays. But this to me is kind of the wild card pick, where there's so many different things you could do if you take Hammond. But I also acknowledge that it might not be the best pick here, or you could run into bonus concerns and signability and possibly lose a player here.
Yeah, Baseball America just released Mock Draft 5.0 today, and they do have Ethan Conrad at 30 to the Orioles and Josh Hammond at 31 to the Orioles. I think they had, if it wasn't Hammond, there was another high schooler that they'd heard linked to the Orioles. I can't remember the name. It's not Sean Gamble, although that one is an interesting name as well right here. They did have Jace Laviolette going to us at 19, which hopefully is not the case. That feels like a Vance Honeycutt redux. I do love what I've seen of Josh Hammond recently on the write-ups and everything, but also Alex Lodis is like that high floor middle infielder that Nick was talking about. Gage Wood, I mean, that would be exciting as hell if the Orioles took him. That means not only I mean, that'd probably be the biggest firepower arm they've drafted in the Elias era. It would be fun to see what they could do with him.
This one is
a tough one.
Yeah, I do really like Lodis, and he was trending towards potentially being the Golden Spikes winner. That went to Wahiva Loy there, but Lodis is a phenomenal defender at shortstop. Numerous highlight reel plays, and you look at just the exit velos. He came into the year with a 105 max EV, and then I think it got up to 107 on like opening day, and then later that weekend he was up to 110 max EV. Like the EVs were just consistently like climbing throughout the year. I think there's like swing and miss. I think there's some questions about the hit tool a little bit, but I don't know. He does get, I mean, this is a plus defender, plus arm, good power. Or do you guys want to go with one of these pitchers? Do you want to grab pitcher early? Do you want to wait on pitcher? Is it too early for that? Or do you want to go with Hammond and
I love them all. That's the problem. Can we take them all? I'm going to put my official vote in for Gage Wood just because it would be like it'd be one of the most exciting moments in Orioles draft history, I feel like.
I will say this with Wood, and this is where Bob might be swaying me a little bit here because I came into this leaning Hammond, is that Wood's worst pitch when you look at scouting reports nationally is his changeup. And if there's something we know the Orioles can fix, it's a bad changeup. He'll be throwing a kick change by this time next year, and it will be working for him.
Up to 98 miles per hour, big time extension, big time rise up through the zone. We know the Orioles like that. I think he's doing all this from a lower arm slot as well. It seems like fastball is legitimate plus pitch. He did have that injury as well, so I'm not saying he's fresh, but he does have limited innings under his belt this year. So you wonder, are you getting him maybe at a bit of a discount here if he's available at 30, 31? What could he have done if he had the full season to pitch, if he pitched like that in the College World Series?
Yeah, and why not, right? We're the arbiters today.
All right. Gage Wood or Josh Hammond?
Wood for me.
I'll go Wood.
All right. We're taking the pitcher crowd early. We're going Gage Wood.
Lodis might be there in the next pick.
So to recap real quick here. So we got Xavier Nines, high school, third base, potentially corner outfielder at pick 19. Pick 30, we went Ethan Conrad, outfielder at Wake Forest. And then Gage Wood, the right-handed pitcher from Arkansas. Now, since we picked, there we go. All right, Dean Curley goes to the Brewers. Brandon Compton to the Twins. A lot of high school picks. Anthony Ironson to the Yankees. Love you, but hope you get rocked now. Mason Neville is going to destroy the Orioles. He gets picked by the Tampa Bay Rays. Max Ballou to the Marlins. Alex Lodis goes to the Angels.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Well, he'll be in the majors next week. So,
yeah. Charles Davlin to the Reds. Patrick Forbes to the Rangers. Kyle Lodis, the other Lodis cousin, goes to the Rays. Gavin Turley to the Twins. Cam Leiter to the Cardinals. Daniel Dixon to the Mariners. All right, so this is round 2. Get up here. Round 2, pick 58 overall. Josh Hammond's still there.
If he's signable, I want him.
JB Middleton, pitcher from Southern Miss. I've taken him in a couple early mocks. Cade Obermueller from Iowa. So that AJ Russell could be pretty interesting out of Tennessee. He had the brace procedure and came back pretty early last year, and they shut him back down a little bit longer. So he didn't really pitch too much in 2025, recovering from that. Joseph DeZerwa from Michigan State is a fun option. I like Nick Dumanel. Henry Godbout. I think
I'm done with Virginia for a little bit.
Yeah. And I think we're banking on Xavier Nines playing third base, and we might have missed the high floor / high-ish ceiling infielder. There might be one coming up later on, actually. We'll see. But Yeah. What are you guys seeing here that you like?
So, Nick, I think I want to get your thoughts on Middleton a little bit more because I have heard you talk about him on the mock drafts you've done solo. What makes him intriguing in your mind?
6 foot righty. Guy who's been screaming up draft boards this year. I mean, he's sits in the mid 90s. He's up to 98. I think he gets big time extension as well. I think a lot of the reports kind of agree that the fastball it needs some tweaks, but in the right organization, it could be a potential plus offering. Slider is really good. He's got a good curveball. He's got a good changeup as well. Already, it's a deep repertoire. This is a guy who I think is just the arrow is pointing up. Like he's only beginning to scratch his potential down there at Southern Miss. And if you get him in the right organization, this is a guy with like MLB mid rotation upside, to be honest. But
Yeah, how realistic is Josh Hammond that he would even be available here, that he's signable here? Because if it's realistic, I would love to do that, but I'm just not sure if that's like you're setting yourself up for failure signing wise. I'm thinking Nines is probably what? Maybe slot a little bit over or under slot, and then Conrad is probably slot, and pick 31 is probably around slot as well. You'd have to go over slot here. You'd have to shave some money, some decent money off in some of the next rounds.
Yeah, if you're going to go with Hamilton, Hammond, excuse me, that's a good point. Because when I saw Hammond was still here, it's like, oh, that's the pick. But Middleton does have some of those traits that we know the Orioles like. So that's something that kind of brings me back to him. Here's something I will throw out, though. Does it feel like too much of a risk to go back-to-back pitchers this early in the draft?
Maybe, but I'm sure the Orioles are looking at it like right player, right spot, right price. So I don't know if that's really much of a concern, but I don't know. I feel like we kind of twisted ourselves up in knots here a little bit.
I don't know if you guys want to go pitcher. I mean, I like JB Middleton, but if you want to get different, I also like Joseph DeZerva from Michigan State. He's 6'7". The fastball velo, he could use some more, but he's been up to 95. It's more like low 90s right now, but I mean, it's that 6'7", a little bit of deception in the delivery. Slider's a good offering. I think that's his best offering right now. He's another guy who I think with the right tweaks with the fastball, you have a real high impact starting pitching prospect on your hands. And same thing with AJ Russell. It's just, I mean, that guy's upper 90s. That guy is a flamethrower. He just didn't get to pitch because of the internal brace procedure he had. So he was still recovering this year, but
I like Middleton. Let's blow the fans' minds and go back-to-back pitchers early on.
All right, let's do it. We'll go JB Middleton from Southern Miss.
Yeah, Bob, I'm surprised you've seen Zach Bauer on the board for a while now. You've yet to make a 24 reference.
You know, it's no Shrek, okay?
All right, so we take JB Middleton for Southern Miss. We've gone double pitcher early. So Luke Hill goes to the Braves at 60. AJ Russell to the Royals. Jack Bauer is off to Detroit to save the world. Joseph DeZerva to the Rays. A couple more high school guys. So we're back up now at pick 69. This is the competitive balance round.
Nice.
B pick. Yeah, let's make this a nice pick here. I mean, largely the same guys. I mean, we've got... At this point, Hammond is just, I think, unrealistic.
Yeah.
But we could go 3 pitchers if you want a Cade Obermueller or Chase Shores from LSU, although I think he's kind of going to be more destined to the bullpen. Henry Ford, James Ellwanger, Nick Dumanel, but I just took him in one of the mocks. We could scroll a little bit here.
Yeah, wow. It's a lot of Landon Schaefer. What about, tell me about Henry Godbout. Why should we get Griffin Farrell's double play partner?
I mean, Godbout is his big thing was the hit tool at the beginning of the year. Let me find my thing on him. I have to find it quick. I'm just scared about his ceiling. It's the same thing as not the same exact thing as Griff O'Farrell, but I can't find it yet now. We're making great radio here as we try to figure this out live.
What about Corbin Dickerson?
I mean, Dickerson's the higher floor
teammate.
Outfielder. Godbout, though, I mean, 6'2", right-handed hitter, 60 grade hit tool, probably going to be a second baseman. He does have max EV north of 110 miles per hour. Very, very low strikeout rate. He had a 6% strikeout rate last year, I believe.
All right, Virginia, take me home. I like it. 60 grade hit tool. I mean, that's pretty kind of Norby-ish, in a perfect world. But I don't know. I mean,
yeah, Fangraphs gives him 60 future value hit, 40 power, 50 speed, 50 fielding. This year, he did hit 8 home runs, but he had an 8% strikeout rate this year, an 11% walk rate. Hit 309, just a 102 WRC plus. I mean, I feel like this kind of is Griff O'Farrell redux, but a couple of rounds later.
Which would have been much nicer, in my opinion. Yeah, if it's not him, I think you got to go pitcher again, unless you're going another one of these high school guys, which I feel like this is not the range for that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the idea of going back to the well as Dallas Baptist with Ellwanger is very intriguing to me, given Braxton Bragg's success. But there's not a guarantee that lightning's going to strike twice there. So we're going to catch lightning in a bottle twice, I should say. Godbout, I do agree with Nick. I share a lot of concerns about the ceiling. But a 60 grade hit tool at second base in this part of the draft, it's not bad.
I got a better option.
All right.
We're going to reach a little bit here and have some fun. I wrote about this guy right before the NCAA tournament started, and then he hit a home run like 12 hours later in game 1 of their regional. This guy right here, Colin Yeoman, shortstop from UC Irvine, 21 years old, just turned 21, a 6'2" righty, plays shortstop. This year at UC Irvine, he hit 13 home runs, 153 WRC plus, 336 average, 20 doubles and triples combined. So good walk, good strikeout numbers. I'm trying to find here 50 hit, 50 run, 50 field. Max EVs are well above 110 miles per hour, near 60% hard hit rate this year, devours fastballs. And as far as like his swing and operation goes, Joe Doyle comps him to Eugenio Suarez.
Anything I'll take the Cavalier pick to get out of Virginia. So yeah, I like it.
I like this too. I feel like it's very similar to Godbout, some risk, but also a higher ceiling. So I'm good with this pick here.
And in my write-up, I said I feel comfortable planting a big flag on Yemen's big league potential. So
let's have fun. It. Let's do it.
Colin Yemen, welcome to the squad. Yeah, I'm good with passing on the UVA guys as well. All right, so after Yemen, we got James Ellwanger goes to Cleveland. Logan Lunsford's fun. He goes to the Cardinals. Speaking of UVA, Henry Ford goes to the Rockies. If that happens in real life, even at pick 74, I think Henry Ford, he just committed to Tennessee in the portal. I think, I don't know, a hitter going to the Rockies, maybe he does sign with the Rockies, but such a garbage organization. Cade Obermueller to the Rockies. He's going to die there. Nick Dumanel to the Marlins. Sean Youngerman, one of the best fastballs in this draft class, goes to the Angels. Henry Godbout goes to the Nationals. So Brad Seelick, thank you for taking that off our hands. Josh Hammond there at 81 to the Blue Jays. There we go. Griffin Hughes, Nolan Schubart, they all go. So we are at third round, pick number 93. bunch of high schoolers here. Max Williams from Florida State, big time power. Easton Carmichael, if you guys want a catcher, we got to take a catcher at some point. Nate Snead, pitcher from Tennessee. He was lighting up the radar gun at the combine this year.
What about Tristan Gray?
I like Tristan Gray a lot, and he came on pretty strong at the end of the year. Murph Gray here.
Like a Max Wagner-ish type of pick.
He's got chase, and he does have swing and miss, but he's like 60-plus grade arm at third base. I mean, that's there. The power is there for sure. It's a questionable hit tool. But I think at this point in the draft, like that's what you're gonna get, right? So.
That's exactly why you have to take these hitters early.
Yeah, and this is sort of where I'm torn. I'm torn between two guys with power and questionable hit tools in Williams and Gray. I kind of like it, almost in some ways by default. I kind of like the idea of a corner outfielder over a third baseman in this spot, but at the same time, when you read up about Gray's profile defensively, the arm is certainly there for third base. I know that there are some concerns in the scouting reports that I've read about the footwork there, but loud power with a good arm from third base, it's interesting. And also, too, isn't Florida State perceived as being kind of home run friendly for lefties? I seem to remember that when the Orioles drafted DJ Stewart, that a lot of that discourse was out there.
Yeah, I mean, everyone down there is smashing this year. But yeah, I guess what position do you guys feel comfortable going with at this point? We'll start there. Because if we go back and look at, let me pull up what we've got. We got Xavier Nyan, so we got our infielder. We're saying he's our third baseman. Ethan Conrad, we got one outfielder. We got our college shortstop with some ceiling and Colin Yeaman, and we've got two pitchers.
I kind of like, obviously, Nyans is high schooler, so he's going to start, if he even plays this year, Delmarva, most likely FCL Delmarva next year. If you get Gray, that's the college route of a third baseman who can start at Delmarva, hopefully into Aberdeen next year to kind of pair with Eamon. That's the way I'm leaning. But, I mean, you also are going to need outfielders. But also we have a bunch of really talented outfielders coming up internationally that could hit Aberdeen to start next year too. I know you don't ever draft for need. I'm just spitballing here, but I kind of lean towards Gray, but could be convinced otherwise.
That's kind of where I'm leaning to. I think both players have a ton of risk, but that's what you would expect in this part of the draft. And I agree with Bob fully. You don't draft for need, but the outfielders right now, they're in the lower part of the system. For the most part, are developing as you would hope. Nate George is having an excellent year. I think Jordan Sanchez is going to be in Delmarva after the FCL season ends. Thomas Sosa recovering from an injury right now, but there's still a chance for him to get to high A and put up good numbers before the season ends. And you also have the possibility, too, that long-term Aaron Estrada is more outfielder than infielder. So I'm not too concerned with taking an outfielder at this point.
If you look at Gray's numbers, that's old. I don't know where that came from. But let me pull him up. So if you look at Tristan Gray this year at Fresno State, I know it did not start off very strong, but I think he was the Mountain West player of the year. He was Mountain West freshman of the year in 2023, and he was the All Mountain West first team this year. Mountain West Championship MVP, conference all tournament. He was a Gold Glove finalist this year over at third base. Take the college Gold Glove for what it is, but he hit 320 this year with 18 home runs, 25 doubles, just 33 strikeouts on the year to 23 walks. And I really like Tyler Jennings over at Off the Clock podcast of Just Baseball. He has that Gray had a 91% end zone contact rate at Fresno State this season. He feasts on heaters, seldom misses them. Not many warts with spin. It's changeups that give him the biggest issue. But he has outstanding bat speed, above average power to all fields, playing best to his pull side. It's a loud bat and a solid mold of clay for a development program. Has the body and arm to fit at third, though his range and athleticism are fringy. He projects to stick there, although a move to right field could be possible.
So he's both infielder and outfielder. I mean, I'm liking him more and more.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, let's go with Tristan Murph Gray, third baseman from Fresno State. Boom. 21 years old.
Murph.
All right. So since Murph goes,
2 more picks to go.
See, Cam Maldonado.
2020-esque draft.
Yeah. Mitch Voigt. I really love Mitch Voigt from Michigan State or Michigan. He goes to Kansas City. Sorry, Mitch, for getting that Michigan State mixed up. Not really seeing any. Anthony Martinez is potentially fun if you like first base DH types, but massive power. He goes to the Dodgers. Grant J, Damian Bravo, they're all off the board. Easton Carmichael, Ben Jacobs, Ryan Weidman goes to the Cardinals. All right, so 2 picks left. Here's the top of the board. Do we see anything we like? A lot of high school guys that I'm going to be honest and say I don't know anything about.
Yeah, same.
Well, you've got Williams available still. He slipped through, so that whole discussion we had the last round could be rendered moot by just picking him.
It wouldn't be the worst idea. Any pictures that pop out to you, Nick?
Kind of. I mean, the bats here, there's some fun bats here if you want another bat. Mason White, shortstop from Arizona, probably a second baseman. He's got big time power, does have some swing and miss, but it's not Connor Norby, but I feel like there is Connor Norby-esque vibes with Mason White here. James Quinn Irons, outfielder from George Mason, massive power potential. He really showed out at the draft combine as well. You could get weird and go Kane Kepley if you want Enrique Bradfield Jr. light at this point in the draft. I don't really know, though. Do we think we need to save any money? Because if so, we could do that. I don't know. What are you guys thinking?
No, I feel like we haven't gone off the deep end money-wise.
I'm really intrigued by Irons because of that power speed combination. MLB Pipeline has him right now in a 55 power grade, 60 run grade, and notes that he's a plus runner who swiped 36 bags this season, has enough speed and range to play center field, and could be there at the next level. However, he might best profile as an athletic right fielder with a strong arm and the power potential to fit there. So that's
kind of fits the Josenberger, that, over that profile that the Orioles have liked of more recent dates.
I do. So I missed this. Apparently he's entered the portal and was committed to Tennessee. And that kind of brings up just the point of, I'm curious to see how that impacts the draft this year, because you're seeing these smaller school guys that they might be a junior, but money's always been flowing in college sports, right? But now with the NIL and everything, it's flowing a little bit more heavily. And these guys are all transferring to these bigger schools right now ahead of the draft, gaining even more leverage when teams come calling. So if you look like a guy like James Quinn Irons, all right, he's from George Mason, so smaller school guy. You're like, all right, at this point, we could get you probably for a little bit under slot, right? But he could say, if my slot value is, I don't know what it is at this point in the draft, but let's just say it's $100,000. He says, all right, slot value is $100,000. His agent could say, I want every penny of that $100,000 because I'm going to make, I don't know, even 150 or even 75,000 at Tennessee next year. So I want every penny of this $100,000 slot value from you guys. Otherwise, I'm going to go hit in the SEC and raise my stock even more. I am curious to see how that impacts a lot of picks like this. But
yeah, it's a good point.
I don't know.
Now, White is set at Arizona. He's not in the transfer portal to go somewhere else.
No,
next
I don't
season.
think so. Mm-mm. Gabe Davis was supposed to be kind of the star of Oklahoma State's pitching staff, but he like completely disappeared this year, lost his rotation job, never really returned. Although he was lighting up the radar gun at the combine.
That would be a very Orioles-esque pick, a little bit later maybe.
I feel like it would.
Lacking signability concerns, Quinn Irons is my pick here.
I like it.
But do you think that realistically this is someone the Orioles can sign, knowing that I'm thinking one, do you think there's an overslot pick on our board yet?
Not a big one, but also not really a big underslot either.
No.
I mean, I like Irons. This is your bona fide outfielder. We only really have one. 6'5", 230 pounds. He's got up to 115 max EV. Again, they're
going to have some senior signs in 8, 9, 10 rounds. You typically do. So I'm all about it.
James Quinn Irons, keep it local.
That's my pick.
Local-ish from George Mason. Boom.
My daughter Quinn just turned 2 yesterday at time of recording, so it's fate.
All right, we got one more pick left here. Let's see if anybody fun went after we took James Quinn Irons. Pico Cone to the Brewers. Max Williams falls all the way to the Guardians. Jacob Morrison to the Dodgers. They would. Not really a bunch of high school guys go. All right. So now last pick, we can have some fun with this one on where we want to go. Scroll down a little bit even. It's lots of high schooler guys there again. I mean, maybe.
Gabe Davis still there. I like that one a little bit. Sounds very Blake Money, Alex Pham, Chase Alsop-esque.
Seeing some other guys. I took Dominic Reed from Abilene Christian in the last one. He has one of the top breaking balls in this draft class. Jared Spencer, I think, is going to have Tommy John surgery, so he's out. He was Texas's ace. Trace Phillips, mid-major guy, good season this year. Ethan Hedges from USC, he's a two-way player. He was a closer / power hitting outfielder, I believe.
We got to make up for Nolan McLean somehow.
Yeah. We didn't take a catcher. Adonis Guzman from Arizona has been the hot name the last couple of weeks. We take Benny Agbayani's son, high school shortstop from Hawaii.
Save the catcher for round 6.
Take another Quinn, JT Quinn.
There we go.
From Georgia. We're scrolling too far there.
Trent Caraway still on the board at this point?
He is. I think he is. He is.
Yes.
Third baseman. Go ahead, Nick.
So he just transferred today, I think. Let's see. Yeah, he's entering the portal. According to Joe Doyle, coming off big regionals with 6 home run, pedigree of plus raw power, up and down year, but big 2024 cape, big raw offensive tools, draft eligible, teams like him, ranked as a top 150 prospect, tons of leverage.
So that's going to be difficult to sign.
Yeah,
He's
the
only
leverage kind of, especially since we just took the George Mason guy. I love the idea of Gabe Davis, but I don't want to just get stuck on that.
Let me pull up this report here. Gabe Davis. All right, so I'm going to read from Tyler Jennings again. So Gabe Davis is 6'9", by the way. A 6'9" righty. Let's see. After having a release height under 6 feet, he raised his release by half a foot, which hampered the fastball whiff rates. But with that said, he gets a ton of extension, sits in the mid 90s, bumps 99 at his peak with cut. It's a cutter-esque slider that takes the headlines about 90 miles per hour. He's tinkered with a changeup that's got some sink and a big low 80s curveball. He's ranked top one. He's got him ranked as a top 100 prospect. Joe Doyle has him ranked as the 149th prospect, 55 slider, 55 fastball.
Again, the changeup is the pitch that the Orioles can fix. That's the one that I'm pretty confident in them being able to get it out of, get that a better changeup out of a pitcher. So
yeah, whether it's a splitter or a kick change these days, and maybe can get that velocity more consistently, a tick or two up. I'm a fan.
Do we like 6'9" right-handed pitcher Gabe Davis from Oklahoma State? Is that who we're
Mike
going?
Elias does love his big, tall right-handed pitchers.
All right, let's do it.
That's my pick.
Boom.
All right, so final results here in this just perfect episode for radio as we fumble along at times here. But we went Xavier Nyans, high school third baseman at pick 19. We've got at pick 30, Wake Forest outfielder Ethan Conrad. At 31, Arkansas right-handed pitcher Gage Wood. 58th, JB Middleton from Southern Miss, right-handed pitcher. At pick 69, UC Irvine shortstop Colin Yeaman. Third round, pick 93, Fresno State third baseman Murph Gray. Round 4, pick 124, George Mason outfielder James Quinn Irons. And pick 5, we're rolling the dice. We're going Oklahoma State right-handed pitcher Gabe Davis. So 1, 2, 3 pitchers, 2 outfielders, 2 third basemen, and a shortstop.
I love it.
I like this group a lot. I really like that Nick talked us into Yeaman there with pick 69 because
Agreed.
I think that ultimately that's the best we could have done in that spot. Nyans, bring it on. I want to see that left-handed power show up at Camden Yards in a few years. Conrad, I feel confident is going to be part of the Major League outfield picture someday, and took some chances here with these pitchers, but they all fit the Orioles model to a certain extent. And if you want to see them take their model and apply it to someone who's a first-round talent or close to a first-round talent, we've given you that.
Yeah, I especially love the first 4 picks we made. I would be ecstatic if that was the Orioles draft. Yeaman, I think that was a tough spot, but maybe that's where we can save a tiny bit of money. And I do like the way we ended the first 5-round portion of the draft. So very satisfied with, even though I feel like we made it a little bit tougher on ourselves than we had to with the back-to-back pitchers at picks 3 and 4, but I think it worked out in the end.
This is why, as much as I would love to work in an MLB team draft room, there's no way I would survive. But put up Gabe Davis here from the Combine. So StatCast standouts at the Combine. Gabe Davis had the 5th highest bullpen velo. He averaged 94.3, but he had the 2nd highest induced vertical break, more than 20 inches of IVB. And his sinker is over 2,500 RPMs, one of the highest bullpen spin rates. So maybe it's one of those pure stuff guys. He's it.
Yeah, sweet. I'm in.
This feels like a really good group here, and this is just the beginning of our draft coverage for this year. We're going to be on the air the night of the draft, night 1 of the draft, excuse me. That's going to be on Sunday, July 13th. We'll have more details about that coming out on our socials here over the next 2 weeks or so, and then we'll, of course, get back on the air later in the week to recap the full draft. And then once players sign and get into the system, we'll have some updates there. We might bring on a guest to talk about the Orioles class a little bit more. And, of course, when our top 50 prospect update comes out in August, those players will be added to the list. But for now, though, we'll shift gears and we'll go back to talking about players who are actually in the system during our final segment, Last Call, brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing. Located 1421 Ridley Street, Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre- or post-game drink. And while you're at the ballpark this year, be sure to check out the beer stand behind home plate, where you can get one of Checker Spot's signature beers. The bird is the word. And for this last call, we're going to do our typical outside the top 30 portion of our top 50 segment and shout out players for something they've done recently, whether it's been a good game, a good week, or just something interesting in their stat line that we want to point out. And I'm going to start with Nick because he's got some lower level players who've been making some noise this summer.
To completely change gears here, because I'm talking about some DSL guys. I'm going with my hitter is, I posted about both these guys today after watching them, but Starlin Miesas, 17-year-old outfielder in the Dominican Summer League right now. He signed later in the process. He signed in late April of this year, but last week he was 3 for 10, had a triple, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, hitting 275 on the year, 473 on base percentage, 13 walks to 14 strikeouts. I've kind of been monitoring him. And then this morning, Monday morning, he had 3 hits and all of them were hard hit. His last one was 103 mile per hour single. I've seen up to 104 miles per hour in these games. He did have one game when I watched, and whoever they were playing, the pitcher had like a huge breaking ball. And he kind of looked like if I were to step in a batter's box against a major league breaking ball, where he like ducks, like not the most comforting reaction to a curveball. But he did it twice in that game. But he hits the ball incredibly hard. I haven't seen him do it since. But yeah, he hits the ball incredibly hard for a 17-year-old kid. Just I'm intrigued by the young bat there, and I'm gonna stick in the Dominican Summer League for a right-handed pitcher. I'm going to guess this is Yanier Marmolejos. Don't know how old he is because on none of his player pages anywhere has any information. So we're having fun with this one. But he signed late in the process as well. He just signed a couple of weeks ago, I think. But he went 5 innings, 1 hit, no runs, no earned runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. He's made 4 starts so far this year. He has a 1.04 ERA, 16 strikeouts to 4 walks. He's sitting 90 to 93 with the fastball. He's listed at 6 feet. I'd love to know how old he is, but this is the become the fun part for me is watching these Dominican Summer League games and trying to pick out who should we be paying attention to early on. So.
Who is the next Esteban Mejia? Is it Esteban Luna? I'm going to go with a very young player for one of my picks. It's Jose Pena, not exactly a under the radar pick. He was the biggest signing in this January's international class, but he's still only 16 years old, one of the youngest players in the DSL, I believe. It doesn't turn 17 until August 16th, and just has been super consistent at being such a young player in the DSL. Batting seems like he's hitting second most nights, or most mornings, I should say. But he's batting 298, and this actually, after today, I think he's batting 300. But before today's Monday's action, he had a 792 OPS, a 114 WRC plus, 13% walk rate, 23% strikeout rate. Does have a high batting average for ball in play, but just seems like every time he hasn't had like some huge game where he's like 3 for 4 with a double and a home run, but he is always like 1 for 4, 1 for 3, has 5 doubles, 6 stolen bases in 7 attempts. Just super solid, and especially for his age to be performing this well, I think says a lot. Has yet to appear officially in our top 50, and I think he's trying to change that in a hurry. On the pitcher side, I'm going from a 16-year-old in the DSL to a 28-year-old who was claimed off waivers earlier this season from the Brewers, and Grant Wolfram, who is pitching really well for Norfolk overall. Since he was claimed and brought over 24 and a third innings, he has a 4.07 ERA, but a 2.22 FIP, striking out 27% of batters, only walking 7%. And since May 16th, he has a 0.64 ERA over 14 innings with 19 strikeouts and only 2 walks. So this guy is 6'7". He's 6'7", to continue the meme. 240 pounds. Whatever the Orioles are working on him with, at least as far as command goes, it's working. He's hitting some pretty high velocities. I want to say he has touched like 97, 98 Stuff Plus on Fangraph says his slider is a 116, and his fastball and or sinker and four seamer are below average. Maybe they've brought that up a little bit. Who knows? But he's getting success right now. So just add him to the list of interesting relievers hanging out in AAA.
I'm kind of following the same theme as Bob here. I'm going with a hitter in the DSL and a pitcher in AAA. I'm going to start with my hitter, or excuse me, actually, he's in the FCL now. My hitter this week is Jose Perez, who was signed by the Orioles originally as part of the 2023 international free agent class and had been at the Dominican Summer League for the last few years, but then got the bump up to the FCL back on June 20th. He had a really solid game against the Pirates on Saturday, going 2 for 4 with 2 doubles. Pena's numbers over the course of the year, kind of a mixed bag so far, but with Monday's totals not included, a couple of things I wanted to point out here. First off, his walk to strikeout numbers are excellent. 24% walk rate compared to a 16% strikeout rate in 13 games between the DSL and the FCL this year. Also in that span, he's posted a 151 WRC plus. This is a very small sample size, but certainly a bat that looks like it's trending upwards a little bit here. And then for my pitcher, I'm going with Colin Selby. Now, Selby is not an unknown commodity. He's had some time in the major leagues, with the Orioles being among the teams he's played for. And he's a guy that I know a lot of our listeners are intrigued by, because throughout his career, the stuff has always been better than the results would indicate. He's having a pretty nice year down in Norfolk and was better than ever in the month of June. 10 1/3 innings pitched, no earned runs allowed, 16 strikeouts to 3 walks. Actually did not give up a run at all while giving up only 5 hits. Depending on what happens at the trade deadline, the Orioles are probably going to need some bullpen help over the final couple months of the season. And I feel like Selby is making a really strong case to be one of the first pitchers to get an extended look after the deadline, because he's got enough time in the minor leagues. He's 27. I think that we know who he is as a pitcher at this point. And when the Orioles brought him in last year on waivers, he seemed like a guy that they could possibly fix, get a little bit more out of. They're showing signs of being able to do that at AAA, and I think that at some point this season he should get an extended run in the majors, see what he can prove. And for that does it for this week. So we will be back next week. In the meantime, you can check us out on our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, Blue Sky, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon and sign up to become a member today. If you join at the $3, $5, or $10 levels, you will have access to bonus weekly shows from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 prospects list. In fact, we are set to record our top 50 update for the month of July in just a few minutes here, and that will be available exclusive to patrons. For Bob Finn and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Sweden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.